Good evening. Tonight is going to be another Magic the Gathering video. So this one is a Rakdos or a black and red deck with a demon commander. So I'm very excited about this deck. I have had a high level of success in the games that I've played with it. So the commander for this deck is Raphael, Fiendish Savior, 3 generic, 1 black, and 1 red. Legendary creature, a devil noble. Flying and other demons, devils, imps, and tieflings you control get a +1/+1 and have a lifelink. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature card was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, create a 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. 4/4. So you can go ahead and create some devil tokens that can damage your opponent, and then I think it's just a really great card. You use every day. Devil, demon, imp, or tiefling you have gets +1/+1 as well as lifelink. So very handy. I ended every game I've played with this deck with more life than I started. So, I have kind of some of the more important cards towards the top. This first one is a Zariel, Archduke Azariel, Legendary Planeswalker Zariel. 2 generic and 2 red. So this is a Planeswalker, and I think that they just work really well with the commander. So you have a ability, creatures you control get a +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. you have create a 1/1 red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And you get an emblem with at the end of the first combat phase on your turn, untap target creature you control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So I think this just works really nice with what the commander does. Next we have Ob Nixilis the Fallen, 3 generic and 2 black. So we have a legendary creature demon with landfall, meaning whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may have target player lose 3 life. If you do, put 3 1/1 counters on Ob Nixilis the Fallen. So he can really kind of ramp up rather quickly from that, so he can get pretty nasty. His spark lost, he plots revenge upon the plane whose corrupting mana fractured his soul. So, and then if you remember, the commander will also give him +1/+1, so he can get pretty scary pretty fast. So next we have Blade of the Oni, 1 generic, 1 black, equipment demon with menace. Equipped creature has base power and toughness 5/5, has menace, and is a black demon in addition to its other color types. You can reconfigure, so you can attach to target creature you control or unattach from a creature. 3/1. Archfriend of Depravity, 3 generic and 2 black. Creature is a demon, flying. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, that player chooses up to 2 creatures he or she controls, then sacrifices the rest. Why would I kill you all? Who then would be left to worship me? So I think this is a really great card. At the beginning of an opponent's end step, that player has to choose 2 creatures he or she controls and then kill the rest. So obviously destroying your opponent's creatures is really nice. So very good card. I've been able to get that one out, and it was very, very handy. Indulgent Tormentor, 3 generic and 2 black. Creature was a demon with flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card unless target opponent sacrifices a creature or pays 3 life. The promise of anguish is payment enough for services rendered. 5/3. So again, at the beginning of your own upkeep, you can draw a card unless your opponent decides they want to sacrifice a creature or pay 3 life. So Bloodspeaker, 3 generic mana and 1 black. Creature, Ogre Shaman. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice Bloodspeaker. If you do, search your library for a demon card. Reveal that card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Whenever a demon comes into play under your control, return Bloodspeaker from your graveyard to your hand. So, in this deck, this kind of acts like a pseudo-tutor in a way. So, yeah, and I think this one's really nice because it will keep coming back to your hand. So you can come to search for some of these bigger, more important cards. Obnixilis Unshackled, 4 generic and 2 black. So he has Flying and Trample. Whenever an opponent searches his or her library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. Whenever another creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on Obnixilis Unshackled. So again, this is kind of nice, you know, if you have a lot of devil tokens getting created and they're dying, they're dealing damage to your opponent, and then you know, you're getting a 1/1 counter on this guy. So, and this guy, I like the art on that one. He looks really scary. So we have Master of Cruelties, 3 generic, 1 black, and 1 red. First strike, Death Touch. Master of Cruelties can only attack alone. Whenever Master of Cruelties attacks a player and isn't blocked, that player's life total becomes 1. Master of Cruelties assigns no combat damage this combat. So basically it's kind of forcing you to block this guy. So which he has Death Touch, which means it would be essentially sacrificing a creature. So kind of a nice card. I really like that one. Black Market. So we have 3 generic and 2 black. An enchantment. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add 1 black to your mana pool for each charge counter on Black Market. So again, you know, if you're sacrificing a lot of your devils, you're going to be getting a lot of those charge counters on your Black Market, which means you have a lot of extra mana to cast some of these more hefty creatures. Alright, Liliana's Contract. I really like Liliana, and I think that's some really beautiful art. 3 generic and 2 black. When Liliana's Contract enters the battlefield, you draw 4 cards and you lose 4 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more demons with different names, you win the game. So, I feel like this is a really nice card for just straight up winning the game. And so that last little line there, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more demons with different names, you win. So, really nice because the deck is full of demons and they all have different names. So, because it's Commander. We have Karlach, Fury of Avernus, 4 generic and 1 red, Tiefling Barbarian. Whenever you attack, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap all attacking creatures. They gain first strike until end of turn. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. Choose a background. You can have a background as a second commander. So this is a 5/4 creature and really lots of attacking, which is very good. So we have Rakdos the Defiler, 2 generic, 2 black, and 2 red. With flying and trample, whenever Rakdos the Defiler attacks, Sacrifice half the non-demon permanents you control. Round it up. Whenever Rakdos deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices half the non-demon permanents they control. So you can imagine that could be pretty devastating. And this one, Rakdos, Lord of Riots. 2 black and 2 red. Demon. You can't cast this spell unless an opponent loses life this turn. Flying and Trample. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each life your opponent has lost this turn. 6/6. Let's see. Hidetsugu, Devouring Chaos. Legendary creature, Ogre Demon. So for a black, you'll sacrifice a creature and scry 2. Or for a generic and red, you can tap to exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. When you exile a non-land card this way, Hidetsugu, Devouring Chaos, deals damage equal to the exile card's mana value to any target. That guy's name is a mouthful. Alright. Urabrask the Hidden, 3 generic, 2 red, Praetor. Creatures you control have haste. Creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. When the Mirren resistance arrived, the Furnace Dwellers looked to the Urabrask for guidance. His decree stunned the others. Let them be. So that's pretty devastating, really. You know, if they Baslisk Collar, Artifact Equipment. Equipped creature has Death Touch and Lifelink. Equipped 2. Some Petrars pay massive sums for exotic pets that can give their posh, predictable lives an edge of danger. Decklist the Adversary. 1 generic and 1 black and 1 red. So this is a Planeswalker Decklist. Casualty X. The copy isn't legendary and has starting loyalty of X. As you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power X. When you do, copy the spell. The copy becomes a token. So that's pretty nice to have a copy. Each opponent loses 2 life until they discard a card, or unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or devil, you gain 2 life. And then you have a creature, a 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And then a target player draws 7 cards and loses 7 life. Rogue's Passage. So this is a land. You tap to add 1 mana pool, or 1 to your mana pool, and then pay 4 you can tap, and target creature is unblockable this turn. Rumors quickly spread among thieves about a labyrinth without walls and a prize beyond all measure of worth. So being able to make a target creature unblockable is very, very handy. Not really liking the art on that one, but that's okay. Dance with Devils, 3 generic and 1 red, and I do really like the art on that one. It's like a devil that is kind of silhouetted against a flame. So this is an instant. Put 2 1/1 red devil creature tokens onto the battlefield. They have, when this creature dies, deals 1 damage to target player. Devils sow chaos and reap panic. Pact Weapon, 3 generic, 1 black, artifact equipment. As long as Pact Weapon is attached to a creature, you don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. So obviously that's very handy. So basically it kind of prevents you from being able to lose the game as long as it's attached to a creature. Whenever an equipped creature attacks, draw a card and reveal it. The creature gets an XX until end of turn, and you lose X life, where X is that card's mana value. I suppose you could still lose it if, somebody had a card that was like, if I have 13 cards in my hand, then I win, kind of sort of thing. But as far as you losing all your life, then you wouldn't be able to lose the game. Let's see, Burning Rune Demon. Oh, he looks scary. Demon Berserker, flying. When Burning Rune Demon enters the battlefield, you may search your library for exactly 2 cards, not named Burning Rune Demon, that have different names. If you do, reveal those cards. An opponent chooses one of them, put the chosen card in your hand, and put the other into your graveyard, then shuffle back to your library. Dragon Skull Summit. Land. Dragon Skull Summit enters the battlefield tapped, unless you control a swamp or a mountain. Tap to a swamp or a mountain to your mana pool. When the Planeswalker Angrath called dinosaurs dragons, the name stuck in certain pirate circles. So that's a land, I think. I don't know why I put that guy there. I should have been randomly tossing him in that pile. So maybe I'll put my lands here. Okay. So then we have a standard mountain. I'm always such a big fan of the artwork in Magic the Gathering. Even if people don't play the game, just to see the artwork is so amazing. Some really great artists in the world. This one is called Mojave Emporium Master. So it is 1 generic, 1 black, and 1 red. Cat Devil. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. Welcome to the Wandering Emporium. Feel free to browse the bazaar. We have everything a lost soul could want, need, or afford. That's a really nice artwork on there. A swamp. Looks like a Kamigawa one. to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. If you spend this mana to cast your commander, it enters the battlefield with a number of additional 1/1 counters on it equal to the number of times it's been cast from the command zone this turn. So, pretty common land there. So this one is like a really big demon flying over some kind of lake of fire. And he's dropping someone into the lake, into some very large, scary hands. Wouldn't want to be that guy. So this creature is called Dreadfast Demon, or Dreadfeast Demon, 5 generic, 2 black, with flying. At the beginning of your up and step, sacrifice a non-demon creature. If you do, create a token that's a copy of Dreadfast Demon. By the 6th day of darkness, the lake was more blood than water. So this guy, I don't know what's going on with that creature, but he does not look like he's having a very fun time. The Pithing Needle. As Pithing Needle enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Occasionally a scab remembers too much of their former life. Luckily, there's an easy cure. Dreadbore. 1 black, 1 red. Sorcery. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. In Rakdos controlled neighborhoods, everyone is part of the show. So I like destroy creature or planeswalker cards. I've always found them really handy. Alright, so this one is a saga card. I like the art there. He's like on stage or something, I don't know. But he looks really cool. So, as this saga enters, and after you draw your draw step, add a lower counter, sacrifice after 3. So the first step, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, Cardur's Vicious Return deals 3 damage to any target. 2. Each player discards a card. And 3. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a 1/1 counter on it. It gains haste until your next turn. So this is called Portraiser. 3 generic and 2 red. Orc Pirate. Whenever Portraiser deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there is an additional combat phase. Portraiser can't attack a player if it has already attacked this turn. Smash and grab, loot and burn. Then it is the next town's turn. I'm always really, I don't know why, I get so excited when things rhyme. They're just funner to say, I think. Taurean Mauler. 2 generic, 1 red. Shapeshifter. A changeling. This card is every creature type. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put a 1/1 counter on Taurean Mauler. The power of a waterfall, the fury of an avalanche, the intellect of a gale force wind. 2/2. Thriving Moor. So I really like this one. It's got kind of like rainbow water in it. So it's called Thriving Moor. As it enters the battlefield, it's tapped. As the Riving board more enters the battlefield, choose a color other than black. So of course for this Rakdos deck we would choose red. You can tap to add a black or a mana of your other color chosen, which for us would be red. Beauty appears in strange places for those with eyes to see it. Another swamp, and I just really love the art. So beautiful. And a legendary land, a Sokizan Crucible of Defiance. So you can tap to add 1 red. You can channel with 3 generic 1 red to discard Sokizan Crucible of Defiance to create 2 1/1 colorless spirit creature tokens. They gain haste until end of turn. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. Bloodfell Caves. Bloodfell Caves enters the battlefield tapped. When Bloodfell Caves enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, 1 black, 1 red. Persist. So this guy's really cute. Look at that guy. So this is a sorcery for 1 generic, 1 black. Return target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter. In the tight-knit down of Mist Meadow, death is less important than duty. And then Necrosynthesis. So I think this card is really hard to see on the camera. It's got like, honestly, it's just really hard to see in general. It's got like a really tangle of things there, but it's very dark. So we have 1 generic, 1 black. So it's an aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has, whenever another creature dies, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. So, and that's nice because it is any other creature. So if you have your tokens, or your opponent has their tokens, or their, you know, whatever the case, you get a 1/1 counter on this creature. When enchanted creature dies, look at the top X card of your library when X is the power, or when X is its power. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Rakdos Keyrune. Tap to add 1 black, 1 red, black and red. Rakdos Keyrune becomes a 3/1 red, or black and red devil artifact creature with first strike until end of turn. The Rakdos use it for everything that you can think of, and plenty more than that. Pretty wicked looking key. A swamp. And a Blightning. So we have a 1 generic, 1 black, 1 red. Blightning. That's very hard for me to say, I don't know why. Blightning deals 3 damage to target player. That player discards 2 cards. While the smell of burning flesh is common in Grixis, the odor of smoldering brain matter is a rare treat. 1 swamp. So this is a really cool art on that one. You've got like this little assassin over here, and then you know, this guy is just pretty much getting obliterated here. So you have an instant, and it's just destroy target creature, and it cannot be regenerated. I've seen death before. My mother succumbing to illness, my comrades bleeding on the battlefield. But I'd never seen anything as dreadful as that. Tani, Berserker of Edlin. Hellrider. 2 generic and 2 red. So it's a guy or a devil, I suppose, riding some kind of demon dog down here. So this creature is a devil with haste. Whenever a creature you control attacks, Hellrider deals 1 damage to defending player. Behind every devil's mayhem lurks a demon scheme. Rem Carlos, Blade of the Inquisitors. Burn down the house. 3 generic, 2 red. Sorcery. So you can choose one. Burn down the house deals 5 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Or create 3 1/1 red devil creature tokens with, whenever this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. They gain haste until end of turn. So that's cool. It's like a mansion on fire with a bunch of demons on it. So we have Cardur Doomscourge, and he is 2 generic, 1 black, and 1 red. Demon Berserker. When Cardur Doomscourge enters the battlefield until your next turn, creatures your opponent control attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. Whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. And a 4/3. And a mountain. Artifact land. So Dross Forge Bridge enters the battlefield tapped and is indestructible. 1 black, 1 red. The path to ruin is forged in pain. And a swamp. Actually, I really like that swamp. It's like a midnight swamp with a bunch of forest lanterns and fireflies. And a mountain. So this one is called Rakdos' Return. Rakdos' Return deals X damage to a target opponent or planeswalker. That player or planeswalker controller discards X cards. When Lord Rakdos stirred from his slumber, everyone else's nightmare began. Then you have Obnixilis the Hate Twisted. 3 generic, 2 black, legendary planeswalker Nixilis. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Obnixilis the Hate Twisted deals 1 damage to that player. And then you have destroy target creature. Its controller draws 2 cards. I was able to do quite a bit with this guy. Then you have Orcus, Prince of Undeath. So he has Flying and Trample. When Orcus, Prince of Undeath, enters the battlefield, choose 1. Each other creature gets -X until the end of turn. You lose X life. When return up to X target creature cards with total mana value of X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. They gain haste until end of turn. Swiftfoot Boots. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. It can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponent controls. Equip 1, One who wears magical boots of striding and springing can jump astounding distances. Rakdos Guildgate. It's quite the gate. So this is just a land, red and black. Maze runners who pass through the Rakdos Gate leave behind their scruples and a significant amount of skin. Another land, black-red. I do as I choose with what is mine, and it is all mine. Nicole Bolas. And another land, a gate. So again, this one enters the battlefield tapped, and then you can choose a color other than red, which for us will be black. A partition between the hopeless living and the restless dead. Another land that enters the battlefield tapped unless I control 2 or more other lands, red and black. Swirling eddies of ash hide crumbling cliffs, treacherous drops, and slavering maws of unknown evils. Haunted Ridge. Tramway Station enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap to add a black or a red. You can pay 2 generic, 1 black, 1 red to tap, and sacrifice Tramway Station to draw a card. And another land, you can tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When defeat is near and guidance is scarce, all eyes look in one direction. Then we have Shadow Blood Ridge. So you can pay 1 and tap to add 1 black and red, and that's a black and a red, not a black or a red. The carnage of conflicts long past still stains Otarian soil. Another creature. So this is Witty Roast Master. Devil Citizen. Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Witty Roast Master deals 1 damage to each opponent. If you're lucky, you'll walk out with just your ego singed. Yeah, you don't want to walk out like that guy. He's having his whole face singed. Probably completely off. Another land, Path of Ancestry, enters the battlefield tapped. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's identity, and when that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, you will scry 1. Rakdos Charm. Choose 1. Exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Destroy target artifact, and each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. All very nice options. A land enters the battlefield tapped. And then you have when Rakdos Carnarium enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Tap to add 1 black and red. Smoldering Marsh. So this is a black or a red. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more lands. Basic lands. The continent of Gul'Daz is a geothermal swampland reeking of heat, and decay. Temple of Malice. Temple of Malice enters the battlefield tapped. When Temple of Malice enters the battlefield, scry 1. Tap to add a black or a red. Dark Ritual. Mana source. Add 3 black to your mana pool. If there is such a thing as too much power, I have not discovered it. Volrath. So you have like Liliana whispering to someone. 2 color or 2 generic, 2 black. Search your library for a card and then put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. Show them how hot your fire can burn. Liliana Vess to Chandra Nalar. Another land, so this is a gate you can tap to add a colorless. You can pay 1 and tap to add a mana of any color. Pay 1 tap and tap to tap an untapped gate you control, create a treasure token. I like the art on that one, it's really pretty. And a swamp. Eltural survivors, Tiefling peasants, trample in myriad. As long as Eltural survivors is attacking, it gets +X+0, where X is the number of lands defending player controls. They fought with the desperate courage of those who have nothing left to lose. And this is a 2-handed axe, 2 color or 2 generic and 1 red artifact equipment. So you have a sweeping cleave for 1 red and 1 generic, and it is an instant. So I should say you can cast it for this instead, and that would be that one. Target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn, then exile this card. You may cast this artifact later from exile. Whenever equipped creature attacks, double its power until end of turn. Equip 1 red. And then a mountain. Spawn of Mayhem. 2 generic, 2 black, demon. He has Spectacle for 1 generic, 2 black. You may cast the spell for its Spectacle cost rather than its mana cost if your opponent has lost a life this turn. It has Flying and Trample. At the beginning of your upkeep, Spawn of Mayhem deals 1 damage to each player. Then you have 10 or less life, or if you have 10 or less life, put a 1/1 counter on Spawn of Mayhem. A Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to any target. Hasn't she heard of knocking? Snurred Flaming Fist card. So like a lightning bolt going right at a door. Bloodline Pretender. Shapeshifter. So this is a changeling, which meaning it's every creature type. As Bloodline Pretender enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever another creature of the chosen type enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Bloodline Pretender. So I'd imagine you'd probably choose devils. Sadistic Glee. 1 black, enchant creature. Whenever any creature is put into the graveyard from play, put a 1/1 counter on enchanted creature. First blood isn't as important as last blood. Gerard of the Weatherlight. So Invoke Despair. 1 generic, 4 black. Sorcery. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. If they can't, they lose 2 life and you draw a card. Then repeat this process for an enchantment and the planeswalker. Although officials said it was a sewer failure, the people whispered that it was a warning of Night's Reach. That's one heck of a sewer failure. Tainted Peak. So you can tap to add 1 colorless mana to your pool, or you can tap to add a black or a red. Mountain and a swamp. I really like that one. It's hard to see though. Very beautiful. So this one is called Chef's Kiss. Gain control of target spell that targets only a single permanent or player. Copy it, then reselect the target at random for the spell and the copy. The new targets can't be you or a permanent you control. Cooked to perfection, of course. Don't think that looks very appetizing. So another land entering the battlefield tapped. And when a Koum Refuge enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Red and black. Fatal Grudge. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a non-land permanent. Each opponent chooses a permanent they control to share a type with its sacrificed permanent and sacrifices it. Draw a card. We have Body Dropper. Whenever you sacrifice another creature, put a 1/1 counter on Body Dropper. A black and a red to sacrifice another creature. Body Dropper gains menace until end of turn. Kill count. I lost track years ago. I like the art on that one. It's like a coffin with an arm coming out. So we have choose up to 2 target creatures in your graveyard. An opponent chooses one of them and returns that card to your hand and returns the other to the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. Exile at the beginning of your next end step. Flashback. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. Wake to Slaughter. Wild Magic Surge. 2 red. Destroy target permanent and opponent controls. Its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a permanent card that shares a card type with that permanent. They put that card onto the battlefield and the rest at their bottom. So that could be good. I've never got this one out though. Commander Sphere. Artifact. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's identity. Sacrifice Commander Sphere to draw a card. It harmonizes with the essence of its master. A mountain. And we have Tybalt, Rakish Inquisitor. Legendary Planeswalker Tybalt. Your opponent can't gain life. And then for -2, you've got create a 1/1 red Devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. I like the art. He looks kind of maniacally happy. An instant. So you can add 5 red to your mana pool. If your flesh can withstand the flame, the spirit of the dragon will burn within your soul. There's a guy being incinerated by a dragon. Unless he can withstand the flame, of course. Cure of Hospitality. So we have an Aura Curse. Enchant player. Creatures attacking enchanted player have trample. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to enchanted player, that player exiles the top card of their library. Until end of turn, that creature's controller may play that card, and they may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. And a mountain. I like that mountain a lot. I'm not usually a huge mountain art fan, but I like that one. Gourmand. He looks pretty nasty. 4 generic and 2 black. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera, but it just started raining really hard at my house. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. Trample. This creature can deal excess combat damage to player or planeswalker attacking. When Gourmand enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. 5/5. Arcane Signet. Artifact. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. To feel no constraint but the 4 points of a compass, to tread a path that only you can find. These are the favors of power I've learned to favor. Keon Horizon Walker. A land comes into player tapped, and then black and red. Deep in the heart of Urborg lies a massive volcano whose thick black smoke covers the land with a perpetual darkness. A basic swamp. Your search for a stolen artifact has brought you to the edge of the mere of dead men. And lastly, we have an enchantment. Goblin Bombardment. Sacrifice a creature, Goblin. Bombardment deals 1 damage to any target. With 1 motion, a pest is removed and a scourge is inflicted. So that is my Rakdos Demon deck. I have had a lot of really good luck with this one. I'm sure it needs just a touch of tweaking, but I was really surprised with just how well this worked right out of the gate. It's been able to beat pretty much almost all of my other decks very easily, which is surprising, especially my vampire deck, which is pretty good. So yeah, I had a lot of fun playing with this one. Thank you.